Hey, Justin, looking forward to this chapel this coming semester.
Yes, Eric, likewise. Thanks to all those who have joined us in the conversation today. Our hope today is to have a little bit of a conversation about expectations and help folks have kind of what does chapel engagement look like for this semester, and our hope is to kind of help you walk along with you in kind of outlining what that looks like.
Yeah, a lot of details. Every semester over the past few semesters, it's looked a little different with COVID and all the different kinds of things that we've done. So we just thought it'd be helpful right up at the top, at the beginning of the semester, to give everybody an opportunity. Here's where you can find the information. This is what it looks like. This is what chapel looks like. Why we do some of these things this semester. How students can get in-person credit for watching this video. How do they go about getting credit today?
Yes, so go ahead and you'll watch this video all the way through. Watch it all the way through. There are going to be some questions at the end. Answer those questions, and then you'll go ahead and receive chapel credit for that.
And is that a virtual credit or an in-person credit?
That is
an in-person credit. You get an in-person credit for watching this video. Yes. So, well, hey, let's start out with some of the why behind chapel. Why do we do chapel? I know this isn't something that happens at every university, and every university, even Christian universities, do things a little differently. So I wanted to take a minute right up at the top to talk about why we do chapel. And I could go on for a while about the value of chapel, but I think I want to talk about a couple of things. First, individually, and then second, the impact that chapel makes on a community as a whole. You'll hear us a lot here at Trevecca talk about how we want to help develop and pour into the whole person. Students aren't just receptacles for knowledge that we drop into brains, in a classroom, but we want to help holistically develop the whole person while you're here. And so that happens in all sorts of different ways on campus: physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and spiritually. God uses means of grace throughout our community in all sorts of different ways. So small groups, Bible studies, devotions in classroom, prayer groups together, the care that we receive from RAs and professors and mentors, and all sorts of different kinds of things, having fun together. But one of the ways that we work towards that holistic development is through chapel. It's that time when we get an opportunity to pause from producing, from the busyness of our life, from all of the things, the to-do list that we have to do, and we pause as a collection of people around and center ourselves around the person of Jesus. And we begin to engage in a lot of these means of grace that are historic Christian places and activities where people meet God and God begins to form God's people. And so we practice things like worship together. We study the scriptures, we pray together, and we tell each other the stories of this Jesus who really is the person that God is shaping our lives to be like, right? This is the goal of our lives here at the university, and a part of our mission is that we want our lives to be formed by this Jesus. So individually, chapel becomes a place where we come into a space not to produce, but to be shaped. And the rhythms of worship in a community together are a part of what makes that happen. I also think about it in terms of the formation of a community. Anybody who comes in, and you're fairly new here, Justin, but anybody who comes into our community for a campus visit or start school here will very quickly say regularly, there's something unique about the community here. And I believe that a part of what makes this community unique is that regular, consistent commitment to gathering together intentionally around the life of Jesus and submitting ourselves and entering into these practices of corporate worship and gathering. These are formational practices for our community that make our community distinct and unique and hopefully, ideally, by God's grace, allow our community to take on some of the character of the life of Jesus. And so that's a part of what I love about Chapel. There's lots of different whys. It's a part of our accreditation practices, things that we've got as a part of the Church of the Nazarene, our mission as a university in the world. One other thing that I want to say about that, and then I promise I'll give you a chance to talk, some as well. But I want students to know that we recognize that not every person here at the university is a follower of Jesus. And there's a wide variety of spiritual experience among our students here, and we recognize that. Not everybody's a follower of Jesus. Not everybody's on the same part of their spiritual journey as a follower, for those of us who do follow Jesus. So some of us are just getting started. Some of us are digging deep. And so I recognize that there's a spectrum there, and not all of us worship in the same way, right? Mm-hmm. So these are things that we try to take into account in our planning of an overall chapel experience, over 50 some chapels over the course of a semester, that we try in those experiences to keep all of these people in mind and our whole community. But our hope there is that wherever you're at in your own spiritual journey, that you will be able to find that when you come into these spaces, they can be a time for you to relax, to take a breath, to focus on the very real spiritual reality of your life. And you can hear stories about Jesus. You can have some of these ancient words from God in the scriptures opened up and given to you to meditate on, to think on, to pray through. And that we hope that wherever you're at, these can be times that will help you grow in your faith and take whatever the next step looks like for you. That's some of my why, Justin. I mean, you've been here for a few months. I know you came from a Christian university as well, so you've spent some time in higher ed. You got anything you want to add to why Chapel?
Yeah. I mean, I think kind of re-emphasizing that unplug. I think that is a really unique opportunity that we have to be able to come to a place where we have no expectations on us to, you have to do this, you have to do that. We can just be. And I think that's a great
phrase right there.
Great point, to be able to be present with the community that we're in, to be present to hear from the speaker, and to be present to realize, hey, maybe the Lord and the Holy Spirit will work in whatever is happening to give me something to learn and to develop and to grow. So I know, at least for me, that has been helpful in the various experiences I've had with Chapel at various places. And so that's something I'd love to reemphasize.
Yeah. And, not every chapel out of 50 chapels in a semester. Well, first off, students, if any of you go to 50 chapels in a semester, I have a prize for you at the end of the semester. So most of you will experience about half of what actually is the chapel schedule. I fully recognize that not every chapel is going to land the same way for everybody. But you never know when you come into a space like that. If you come in open and seeking and being in a space of being able to receive and ready to receive, you never know when the Spirit of God is going to show up in your life in a way that enlightens something, uncovers something, ministers to you in a special way, shows you some bit of grace. And if there's a handful of those over the course of a semester, that's really good. What else do we want to talk about? I know there's a lot of details that students need to know. So
in terms of kind of highlighting the Chapel team, we just want to kind of highlight the different folks who are doing Chapel work, particularly like staff and administrators. So that way, if you have an issue or if you have a question, you know which person to go to. So we're just going to spend a minute or two kind of highlighting the various roles of the folks who are involved with Chapel.
Yeah. So Ashley and I, my wife and I, who have been a ministry team together for about 20 years, I'm the university chaplain, and Ashley's the director of chapel worship. And our role with Chapel is really the formation of the chapel schedule. I invite speakers in. We design the chapel experience on the schedule side, and then Ashley works with a team of students who help plan all of the all of the services that we have together over the course of the semester. So we're really on the programming side of things. If you have a question or a comment or some input on what happens in chapel or what you would like to see in chapel, we'd be the people that you could come and talk to. But we're only a part of the chapel team. So talk to us about what you do and the rest of the team.
Yeah. So my role as I work with chapel attendance and chapel engagement. So that means if you have any questions with I attended, if you have a chapel that isn't counted for some reason, or you're having issues with the beacon or scanning, I'm the person you're going to come to talk to, or whether that's through email, you can come to my office, and I'll be able to run you through and help you out with I attended issues. And then also in terms of the engagement piece, I get to work with chapel ushers. So if you're interested, stay tuned. Feel free to email me.
Chapel ushers.
Love to have more folks helping out with that as they're a big role in kind of helping.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah, please.
So chapel ushers, I mean, students have to go to chapel anyway, which we'll talk about in a minute, some of the requirements. But chapel ushers, is that a volunteer position or is that a...
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So it's actually a paid student position.
Hey!
Yes. So you don't have to volunteer, you actually get paid for it, which is great. And on top of that, you're getting chapel credit. So you're going to be there, so you don't have to worry about, hey, which chapels do I need to go to? You're already there, you're working, and you're getting money.
Great opportunity for students to help contribute to that chapel culture. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, that's great. And then in terms of the exemption process, so that's going to come from the residential life side. Dean Lilienthal and Zach Church are going to be responsible for working with students throughout that process. So if you have exemption, we'll talk about a little bit exemptions in a little bit, but that exemption process is going to go through that office and Dean Lilienthal. So if you have questions about that after kind of us going through exemptions, then that would be the person to connect with.
Yeah, good. So team is kind of three different sections. You've got Ashley and I on the programming side. You're on the attendance and engagement piece, and then Dean Lilienthal, Zach Church work on exemptions and some of the following up with students who are having trouble meeting requirements and things like that. So there's another piece to the chapel team, and that is all of the student volunteers that help put this together. So Ashley and I and Joy Deal, who works in our office as well, we work with a team of 4 students that are on our chapel team and the associated student body chaplain, so Carrington Ray this semester. And that makes up our chapel planning team. But then our role as a chapel planning team is to design all of these services, to put together what each chapel actually looks like. But then we also are there to help give students opportunities to serve as well. So over the course of a semester, Ashley and I will tend to work with about 150 student volunteers who lead worship, who pray, who make art, who help serve communion, who read scripture, who do all of the things that make up a chapel service. And that's a really enriching part of our experience, is being able to work with all these students through that process. So it really is a community effort to pull chapel together. Yeah. So let's shift over. We talked a little bit about some programming pieces and team. Let's talk about attendance for a second. What are students expected? I know that there's been a moving target over the past few years with COVID. So what kinds of requirements are there for chapel?
Yeah, Eric. So we have full-time students are responsible for 24 credits for chapel, and then students who are part-time, 6 to 11 credit hours, will have 12, be expected to attend 12 chapel credits.
Now, in the past few semesters, we've done a few of those virtually. Are we doing that again this semester?
Yes.
Yes,
we are.
Yeah. So how many virtual credits out of those 24 or 12 can a student receive?
Yeah. So everyone we allocate 4 virtual chapel credits that you can utilize throughout the semester.
Okay.
So that way it's comparable to this past semester.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about the details of the virtual credits. So you have to get 24 credits if you're a full-time student. We're going to give you 52 or so opportunities for credit this semester, and this semester we're adding some new stuff in that I'm excited about. We're including several new options that we're testing. You may have seen some posters about dialogue events. We're actually going to start offering a couple of those those for chapel credit this semester, and those are going to be after chapel times that we'll advertise. They'll be on the chapel schedule that aren't a worship service. They're just a conversation with somebody, a guest speaker who came in that we want to explore a little deeper, their field of study or something.
Yeah.
We've got a service project during chapel this semester. I know that's been a big thing that students have been asking for, so that'll come towards the end of the semester. There's a couple of times where we're doing like discussion in small group kinds of things with our speaker, where we'll have no worship kind of music section, but we'll just have a time of fellowship together and study and small group kinds of things. We've got a movie night for Black History Month this semester that's going to be in Boone, popcorn and everything. That's going to be a Monday night. So lots of these different kinds of experiences that we'll be dropping into the chapel schedule this semester, which I've been thinking of the phrase, it almost creates an opportunity for like a create your own experience semester with chapel. And if you've got questions, please come and chat with us. We're going to try and drop as many details as we can about each chapel service into the I Attended app, so that at the beginning of the semester, you can look through the service schedule and kind of circle or highlight some of the ones that you're really wanting to participate in. And I think that's going to be a great time. Chapel schedule's pretty typical. Tuesday and Thursday mornings are at 9:30 in Boone Convocation Center. Monday evenings we're going to do at Trevecca Community Church at 6 p.m. again. So let's talk about exemptions for just a minute. You and I mentioned it earlier, but I know there's been some confusion about exemptions, how to get it, when to apply for it, who gets approved for it. So can you just talk us through some of those details and clear up some of that?
Sure. So I would highlight the first thing. You can access the Chapel SharePoint link. There's a link on the Chapel SharePoint that kind of gives further details on exemptions.
Yeah.
So if you miss any of what we're saying, you can always go back there and that will highlight.
You say SharePoint, that like Trevecca place.
Yes,
So SharePoint, it's the spiritual life. If you go to SharePoint and search spiritual life, that will take you to the page that has all the information that we're talking about today. Every single piece of information you need to know is there, including the exemption request. But it's not available the whole semester, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah. In addition, other ways you can find out or learn about exemptions, there will be QR codes throughout, whether it's posters, various social media venues, and then, or you can even, come and talk to me or talk to Dean Lilienthal about exemptions. But so exemptions only run for 2 weeks. It's a 2-week process. Those first 2 weeks of class you can apply for. So people who typically would get exemptions are mostly commuters, students who have no classes before noon, classes or labs before noon on Tuesday, Thursday. Usually can get a partial exemption.
Commuter students who don't.
Yeah,
right. Okay, just for clarity, a commuter student who doesn't have a class or a lab before noon on Tuesday or Thursday can apply and will receive a partial exemption for that, because we want to be sensitive to the scheduling and transportation issues for commuters.
Yeah. And then of course, this is not, I guess the caveat would be, you can still apply for an exemption if you don't fit that bill in terms of being a commuter or even an on-campus student. But those are very case-by-case basis and are, again, typically the main exemptions that we are going to follow through with are those who have no classes before, commuter students who have no classes before noon on Tuesday, Thursday.
There are also some students who have like upper level teaching internships, student teaching or senior level social work internships. Some of those kinds of things will end up dropping into this category as well. Exemptions, again, this is Dean Lilienthal's area, but I think one thing that students need to be aware of is we recognize there are extenuating circumstances, but this really is an expectation. Chapel attendance is an expectation, the same way as class attendance is an expectation at Trevecca. So the exemption process is there to be able to highlight some extenuating circumstances, but by and large, there's just a couple of categories, and those are outlined in the student handbook as well. And there's a link to the student handbook on the Spiritual Life SharePoint site as well. So, Justin, talk us through. You talked about how you manage chapel attendance. How do I get credit for chapel? So I go to Boone. I sit and I take part in it, but like, how do I get credit for that?
Yeah, so there are two different options. So typically there's students can utilize the Beacon. So it's, I believe, the last 15 minutes or so of chapel. You can open your app, iAttended app, and a prompt will pop up saying, hey, are you in chapel? Not hey, but are you in chapel? Or it looks like you're in chapel,
yeah.
And then you can click yes or no. So that's one way, and then you would click yes if you are in chapel, and that will log your credit. Sometimes there's been some finicky things in terms of tech stuff, so a lot of people can also get scanned. So as you are leaving, when chapel finishes, you can walk out, and there are chapel ushers who will scan your iAttended app, so that way you can get credit.
Yeah, good. If my phone shuts down or I forgot my phone, like, what do I do then?
Yeah, so you can. There will always be a chapel usher who is specifically getting those situations or issues, so you can be directed. You either will be directed to them, or you can find a chapel usher and they'll make sure to put your name down, and then they'll get that to me to make sure you get credit.
Great. So that covers the in-person process. What about virtual? If I want to get a virtual credit, use one of my 4 credits out of those 24 or out of those 12, how do I do that?
Yeah, so you'll enter on the iAttended app. There's a little circle that says
Enter code.
Enter code,
yeah.
Yes. There's a couple little circles, but it should be the one on the right. Enter code, and you'll click that button, you'll type in HSA1, and that will open up virtual options for you to be able to utilize. And again, those are 4 options, so use them however you would like.
Yeah, and a couple of details about the virtual chapels. So these are recordings of our live events, and we only make those available for 2 weeks after a live event, and then they disappear. So what we're trying to avoid is students just backloading, binge watching a whole bunch of chapels at the end of the semester, and that helps us to keep track, helps your team to keep track throughout the semester of how are we doing, how are students doing as they're progressing through. So virtual chapels are only available for 2 weeks after the event, and to get credit. Right now, with a virtual chapel, you just watch all the way through to when the timer says 0, right? And then it automatically gives you credit. Now, for this video, this is going to be an in-person credit, and you will have to watch to the end and then answer some questions at the end. So go ahead and walk that process all the way through. So that's attendance. Is that what do I do when I'm there in person in chapel? Are there any expectations
Yes.
for engaging there?
Yeah, so even before you get there, so just to highlight, so chapel starts at 9:30. Typically, I think music starts between 9:20, 9:25, at least not necessarily live music, but kind of speakers playing various music. So chapel starts at 9:30. We give students till 9:40. So 9:40, if you come after 9:40 p.m., we're going to politely ask you're welcome to come in and worship with us, but it will not be for credit. So please make sure you can get there before 9:40. And I understand for those who are commuting, it can be challenging. Traffic is not great in Nashville. But if there are ways you can specifically plan out that specific day if you're going to chapel to leave earlier, so that way if you do hit traffic, that won't be an issue getting later there, 9:40, excuse me.
Good. And then once you do come in, are there ways to engage, ways to not engage?
Yes.
Anything like what are the expectations in the space?
I mean, going back to I think some of the things you highlighted earlier in terms of what we hope for chapel engagement is, this is a place where you can just be and kind of unplug from the busyness, from the craziness of the schedule, of things that are going on. So we hope that you will engage, and so that means computers, laptops, phones. If you could have those put away, so that way you can intellectually and even just kind of spiritually engage with whatever content. And again, I know not everybody is coming from the same faith background or same kind of different places in their faith, but that allows kind of an atmosphere for kind of engaging as a community with one another, where we're being intentional and we're not being distracted, we're not being taking away from other people's ability to do that.
I like that. that distraction, or just, I mean, sort of almost like a practice of hospitality with one another, to create an environment that even if you're not jiving with it that day, or you're coming in and just, it's just not your day for that or whatever, to be considerate of the people next to you and around you, to try and create that space where others can receive something and participate, and that's okay. Every one of us comes into the chapel space on different occasions with different kinds of things and experiences that we had that day, and all of that is okay. Nobody's going to be walking around like, are you singing loud enough, or are you engaging in this way, right? I mean, that's not the spirit there. It's but that practice of hospitality, and for our speakers and our worship leaders as well. I feel like, for me, when we invite people into our community and into that space in particular, we want that to be a space where our guests can come in and really feel embraced, and like there's a community there that is full of love and grace for them. And so a part of that too is like staying all the way through to the blessing. At the end, we really try hard not to keep you longer than 10-20 so that you can get to your classes. So just staying all the way through to the end is helpful. So, okay. So one quick thing, if you would like to get involved in chapel, maybe you play an instrument, maybe you want to read scripture, maybe you want to share a testimony, some of those kinds of things.
You want to be a chapel usher.
You want to be a chapel usher. Please let us know. There are applications on the Spiritual Life SharePoint site for chapel worship. You can email at any point if you've got a question, if you've got information, if you've got some input, some feedback, something like that. If you can reach out to any of us on the team individually, you're welcome to. But if you don't know who to talk to, you can just email chapel@trevecca.edu, and it goes to all of us on the team. And we're so excited to hear from students, to get feedback. We really do try and listen to all of that feedback and take it into account so that we can create the best experience for our community that we possibly can. So, Justin, I think that's about all of the details that we've got. If we missed anything, it really is all on the Spiritual Life SharePoint site. We'll have chapel slides that will have all this information as well. So we hope that's helped answer some questions. We wanted to send you out today with some student testimonials of ways that God has used chapel in the lives of members of our own community, and what they experience and what they look forward to in that space. So I hope you will enjoy these. Let's take a listen.
What I look forward to when coming to chapel is coming in and seeing all my friends. I absolutely love getting to sit with my friends and worship with my friends every week that I come in, and finding new people to sit with. So one thing I encourage you to do is just find a group of people that help you to have a good community of faith. Chapel's been really good for me for that. Just finding people that will pray with me and worship with me and have those tough conversations with me.
So one thing that I like to do to help make chapel a more meaningful experience is to put away my phone. A lot of times I'll keep it on silent anyways, but especially during chapel, I like to either put it in my book bag or in my pocket. It just helps me to be able to stay focused and to be able to engage fully and be present in the moment in chapel. I think there's a lot of good moments and things that are going to happen this year, and would hate for myself and for you guys to miss out on it. So I hope this tactic works.
One thing that I do to make my chapel experience more meaningful is be intentional. I notice the days I go to chapel with an open heart and an open mind and a different posture, that my mindset shifts from attending a mandatory gathering to a true worship experience. I'm able to take advantage of my time at chapel to grow and to learn.
In my own faith formation, I feel that God has used chapel in a way that I would like to call a place of grounding. In academic life and college life, we can be so fast-paced in a time of hurry, and I feel that chapel has been a way to just bring me down to earth, just to bring me back to a place of peace and rest. So I feel that chapel has just been a great way to find a little bit of Sabbath in the midst of chaotic academic life.
Hey guys, this is Jeremiah, your freshman chaplain, and this year when it comes to chapel, I'm really excited for all of us to be able to come together and set our minds on the Lord, especially at the start of the day and on Monday nights as well. It's a great time for all of us as a community to know the true purpose of why we are there and really what we are pursuing further than our own educations. So I really hope you all enjoy this year.
Friends, thanks so much for joining us today. Justin, thanks for this conversation. We're so glad that you're here in this role and excited to get to know you and experience this a little bit more. Friends, we're looking forward to seeing you in chapels this semester. So I hope this has been helpful. We can't wait for a great semester. And please be praying with us that God would use our times together in chapel this semester for His glory and for the formation of our own lives into the likeness of Jesus as individuals and as a Trevecca community. Have a great day. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.